What's up? What's up? What's up? This is Dan, the real estate man, putting the real back in real estate, Mr. Multifamily Conversion himself. And I'm going to be having a conversation about cash flow versus cash out with my buddy, with my coach, marketing guru, Mr. Jerome Lewis.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. So let me hop on I sent you a request. So we're doing this live. We're having a bit of we got like a new structure here. Normally the way our structure works is we do just a podcast interview. So today what we're going to do is we're doing a podcast and we're doing live on like just about all platforms possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Dan. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our podcast structure and how our podcast works. And Dan, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so welcome to the Remarketing Podcast. My name is Jerome Lewis. I am your host for today. The Remarketing Podcast is a podcast where we talk about marketing, tech, business, and leadership, and we talk about these things for real estate agents, real estate investors, and real estate entrepreneurs. We have two purposes here on the Remarketing Podcast. Number one, to spotlight Dan, you, your business, your product, your service, in a way that provides value to you, including market exposure and content creation. Number two, to educate and inform our audience and our listeners. All right, so I'm going to introduce Dan. Daniel Harvey married Erica Harvey in 2018. They have two beautiful children. Dan is originally from Southwest Philadelphia, but now resides in Delaware County. Dan graduated Murrell Dobbins Vocational High School, where he studied electronics. While attending Dobbins, Dan was chosen to participate in the co-op program with SEPTA. Upon graduation, Dan continued to work with SEPTA for 18 years until retiring in 2014 to pursue his dream of being a full-time real estate investor. In 2008, Dan Harvey started DMH Investments LLC to take advantage of declining market prices and begin his career in real estate investments. DMH Investments has since grown into a multi-million-dollar business. DMH Investments focuses on acquiring distressed properties and rehabbing them for use as both rental investments and resale opportunities. Dan has become a highly sought-after inspirational speaker when it comes to discussing his expertise and the benefits of real estate investing. Dan, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we just did like a great formal intro on who you are. I would like to ask, could you please just tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words?
Sure. I'm a Southwest Philly guy. So Philly born and raised. Like the bio said, went to Dobbins, which is a trade school for those of you who don't know. So at this school, you learn different life skills, right? You could learn to work on cars, learn plumbing, all those sorts of things. And the reason why I went there was my parents, especially my mother, she really wanted me to get a skill set so I could go out in the world and start making a living like as soon as I graduated. And I was really, really fortunate. I in between my junior and senior year at Dobbins, I got a co-op job at SEPTA, which is a regional transportation system in this area. And once I graduated from Dobbins, I started working at SEPTA full time. So when I graduated, I was a full-time union electrician. So like my parents' dreams had like come true, right? I had that good job right out the gate. So they were really excited. I was doing that for some years. I started another company. It was a promotions company. Started off doing small parties, built that up to doing larger stadium size events. So we would do up to like 10,000 seaters. In fact, that's how I thought I was going to become wealthy. That's not what happened, but And then I found out about real estate, and the rest is history.
Okay, and so the rest is history, and I want to ask you some questions around specifically real estate, and you have like an interesting niche, and I would like to do a deep dive on that niche as much as possible. But before we get there, I have to ask some basic stuff, and you said the rest is history. So what I would like to ask you, first and foremost, in your perspective, from your experience, tell us, what is real estate investing?
So real estate investing is, and that's a wide ranging question, right? It all depends on who you're talking to. So I'll talk to it from how I come at investing, right? So real estate investing is using real estate to as a vehicle to create returns on your money. So what that means is either I am buying a distressed property, I am fixing that property up, and so I'm forcing appreciation, right? So that the property would be worth more money, so therefore I could sell the property, or I'm buying a property at such a price that I could finance it. I could have a mortgage on that property. I could rent the property out, and the excess cash money is cash flow that pays me. So real estate investing is just that. It's using real estate as a way to create a return on your capital.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I have like a sub question that I want to ask you, and I wanted to get your perspective because like from what I see, there are like different ways that you can be. There's so many different ways, but two of the main ways to be involved in real estate is like active versus passive. And one of the things that comes up is like running a real estate business versus actually investing in real estate. Could you share some perspective on that, on those two different perspectives?
Sure. So most real estate investing is active, right? It's varying levels of activity. So I am a landlord and I also flip properties, right? So flipping properties is going to be very active. It is a transactional business, which means once I buy the property, I fix the property up, I sell that property, I make my money. But if I want to keep making money flipping properties, I have to go out and find another property, or or else that income stream stops. With being a landlord, it's more passive, meaning that once I buy the property and I rent that property out, it will cash flow. But it does take some work. So you can either but you still have to maintain the building. You still have to deal with tenants. Now that could be you, or that could be a property management company, but somebody has to do something. So it's not all the way passive. And the other way that you could be truly passive is if you were a private lender, with meaning you were acting as the bank for other lenders. You were loaning them money and they use your capital to fix up properties, right? That's truly passive. Once you lend the money out, you don't do anything. Or if you were investing in, say, a large apartment building as a group of investors. Well, once you invest your money, that's it. So that's a truly passive way to invest in real estate.
Okay, so I want to hone in on the like truly passive way. And so you work with passive and private investors. How can people get in touch with you if they wanted to invest? Do you still offer those opportunities to people that want to be passive investors, or tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I realized early on that having private investors, was the way I wanted to grow my business. So I went out and I learned everything that I could about how to find private lenders, how to structure deals with private lenders, so that when those opportunities came up, I would be prepared. Yes, I still work with private lenders, and if anybody was interested, they could always reach out to me at my website. They could always shoot a DM to me, either on social media. But yes, I still work with private lenders.
Okay, awesome. The next question I have for you is it's another basic question, but I think it's helpful to anybody listening. Uh, Why real estate investing versus other investment opportunities like stocks or maybe even crypto? Like, why real estate investing for you?
Well, for me, I like real estate because it does offer some opportunities that other investments just don't offer. You can leverage more when it comes to real estate. You actually have a tangible asset, right? You have a real asset. So, and you are more in control of that asset. So if I buy a stock, once I buy the stock, I really have no say in what that company does, right? I mean, they may do well, great, but if they don't, then I suffer still. And with real estate, I have more control over the asset.
Okay. Next question we have for you. What do you think are the best ways to get it started in real estate? And that's a bit broad, so let me define. What do you think is like if you could give one way, you have to pick just one to get started investing in real estate, what would that way be?
Yeah. Well, first get educated. Figure out figure out how the business really works. Figure out what it is that you want real estate to do for you. Like I was saying, real estate is a large industry, right? I mean, there is so many pieces to real estate. So you need to figure out, well, am I looking for capital now? Am I looking for capital for once you retire? Do you want to rehab properties? Do you not want to rehab properties? So sort of figuring out what your needs are, and then picking a real estate strategy that fits your needs.
Okay. And so you have like, and in my experience, I experience this too. Like it's a overwhelming of information out there, and
Mhm.
I don't mean to like you got great content. If somebody wanted to get started investing with you, what's how can they reach you or how would they get started? You got some education, you got some stuff for people to get started. Talk about that.
Sure. So one of the simplest ways is on social media. So they can follow me at Dan the Real Estate Man One on Instagram. Lost the password to Dan the Real Estate Man. On Facebook, it is Dan the Real Estate Man, and then I have my website, which is also it's Dan the Real Estate Man .biz. And we are now putting on some putting up educational courses so that people can learn the processes that I'm using now, because the idea is that you don't want to recreate the wheel, right? You don't want to have to go through all of the mistakes that I've gone through. You're going to still go through some, but there are some common ones that are easily avoidable.
Okay, and so my question, I kind of asked my question a little bit incorrectly, but I was gonna ask one of the things I was supposed to ask, like what are the best resources to learn? And one, obviously, that's talking to you. You got courses, you have mentorship. Other than you, right? What are some other recommendations? And we don't go to like if you could give a person one recommendation to kind of get started, like on their education, what would that be?
Join a real estate investment group. So join a REIA in your local area, because there are quite a few reasons. Number one, if you're not coming from an investing background, probably a lot of your friends and family are not investors. So you need to get around like-minded people, right? And there is great opportunity with networking. So I say everything is in that networking arena, right? There are opportunities, there are properties, there is private lending, there is education. So learn there, and just immerse yourself in real estate.
Okay, and so of course, we work together. We marketers. I gotta plug it. You have your own real estate investment group and association. Could you talk about that? And more specifically, what I would like people to understand is the reason why you started it, like the history. Could you talk about that, please?
Sure, sure. So I started a group called BRRRR, it's the Black Real Estate Alliance Group. I just saw a need for Black real estate investors, entrepreneurs to have a place where they could meet and learn. And I'm one of these people. I'm not going to go out and just cry about it. I'm if I don't see it, I'm going to do it. And so I started it about 3-4 years ago, and we have over 1,200 members, and we meet monthly. Every single month, we have we have an educational meeting. Generally, it's one of our members that are teaching us the best practices when it comes to investing, right? So they could be mortgage brokers, it could be appraisers, wholesalers, so forth and so on. And we have social events. So something that I'm really, really proud of.
Okay. The next question, and we kind of touched on some of this, so it might seem a little repetitive, but I want to make sure people understand. So, the next question I kind of have, like you touched on it about like networking, but like should people invite? Tell me what you think about people investing by themselves. Like, is that even possible? Like, share your perspective.
When you say investing by themselves, I'm not 100% sure, because I mean, you can invest alone, but you shouldn't be on what I call investor island, meaning you're not plugging into other resources, right? So there's so much that you don't know. And there's a lot of things that you don't know that you don't know. And so getting around those people, and that's how you grow, right? Because you need a team around you. Because you're going to probably be good at something, right? But there's going to be a lot of things. There are a lot of moving part that comes with investing in real estate, especially if you don't come from that business background, right? So just like me, I mean, I was a blue collar guy. I had to learn a lot of these processes, right? I had to learn about how to build a business, because ultimately that's what you want to do, is build a real business. You don't want to have a real estate hobby. It costs too much money to have a real estate hobby. So you want to build a real business around it. So don't get on investor island. That's what I call a poverty mindset, right? It's thinking, oh, I can do this all by myself. I don't need anybody. I'm going to be the contractor. I'm going to be the landlord. I'm going to be, and at first starting off, you will need to do multiple tasks. I'm not saying that, but that's starting off. As you grow, you bring people in, you bring in team members, right? And so you can stick to what you do best.
Okay, so we're talking about power team and building, and something that I realized that people don't address a lot when they're talking about power teams and building out these teams is like a coach and a mentor. Could you share your perspective on that and talk about your um, experience on mentorship, why it matters, if it does matter?
Yes, absolutely. So having a mentor is absolutely crucial. Now here's how I break this down. And I'm talking about like paid mentors, right? Is you don't need a mentor necessarily for every single thing, but here's two reasons why you would need a paid mentor. One of them is because it is, say, your project, and there's no YouTube channel, there's no book that's going to speak to your project, right? So you have to have somebody walk you through your project, talk to you about your project and what's going on and what factors may come up, because you're not going to find a video, a book that's going to walk you through what's going on in your property. The other time when I would say it's really important is if there is a niche that you want to learn about. So when I wanted to learn about private lending and how to do it correctly, the first thing I did was I did go to YouTube, and I found a bunch of stuff there. But there was one person who I said, man, this guy knows what he's doing. He came up to the Pennsylvania area. I went to go see him speak. I bought his course. I not only bought his course, I flew down to Florida to take his boot camp, right? Because a lot of times what people are thinking about is how much they're spending and not what they're getting in return, right? It's the value. So let's say that course cost me, I don't really remember. Let's say that course cost me $2,000. There are some people, so I'm not spending $2,000. I have borrowed millions of dollars based on the information that I got from that boot camp, right? If you don't see the value in that, then again, that goes back to a poverty mindset. You're stuck on cost and not on value, right? When I wanted to learn about larger commercial multifamily properties, I went to that boot camp because again, that's a niche process, and you may end up spending millions of dollars. That's not something you want to learn off YouTube. That's not something you want to learn from reading somebody's book. You want somebody that you can ask questions who have gone through the process, right? So for those reasons, I think that it's really important to have a paid mentor to help you work through these issues, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. The idea is you want to get to making money as quickly as possible.
Okay, so we're talking about a lot today, and one of the things that I would like to do is I want to like box it in a little bit. So one of the questions that I have for you, and it's going to take us some thinking, some processing, right? Like if you could give 3 top tips to like be successful in this business for somebody starting out, what would those 3 things be? Even if we already said them, let's say what they are again from you, your perspective. Sure. 3 top things.
3 top things. So first thing, the biggest thing, you got to work on your mindset. Work on your mindset. Your mindset is what's going to hold you back more than anything else. All right, more than lack of money, more than people not coming out and supporting you. Your mindset, how you think about things, is going to hold you back. And a lot of times we don't realize that we have bad mindsets because a lot of people around us share a similar mindset, right? So work on those mindsets. Start reading books that challenge how you think about the world, right? Secondly, learn how money works. You need to understand how our financial system works. Again, real estate is not about the bricks, right? The bricks is the vehicle for you to make the return, but you need to understand how money works. How does our financial system works, right? Because it's a part of the larger economy. And lastly, and this is really important, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? You're going to have to put yourself out there. If you don't like to network because you're an introvert, so what? Like, the world doesn't care. You got to get out there. You got to get in front of people. You got to talk to people, right? So one of the scariest things for me personally was even the idea of speaking in front of a group of people. It like paralyzed me. I said, this is ridiculous. And so what I did was I just faced it head on. So when opportunities came up, I took them. I'm talking about scared to death. I still took them. And what happens is after a while, you don't become less afraid, but you will become more braver. And it's like a muscle. And the more you practice being brave, then you become that much more braver. But you have to be willing to put yourself in uncomfortable places, go into rooms that you may not feel comfortable in, right? Everybody's not gonna, it's not gonna coddle you, not gonna make you feel whatever, but you gotta get in there anyway, right? Especially if you feel like this is what you want, right? Don't let anyone get in your way. Get into those rooms and learn what you need to learn, especially if you are a first generation wealth builder.
All right. So this question is, we're going to stick with 3. So what are 3, and we're going to break it out into 6, right? So I would like to hear from you 3 practical benefits of investing in real estate. And then I also would like to hear from you 3 impractical things like mindset or attitude, like just 3 things on investing in real estate, the practical, and then let's go with like impractical or theoretical.
Okay, so practical. We're seeing it right now, right? So we are dealing with very high inflation, right? When you realize money is basically nothing. It's just we just believe it has value, and so that's the value that it has until it doesn't. So the thing about investing in real estate is that you have a real tangible asset that people need. People are going to always need to live somewhere, right? I don't see anything coming up that's going to change that, right? So that's number one. It's properties generally overall they go up in value, so it's a good long-term asset, right? So when I'm looking at real estate, it's a long-term game. It's not a short-term game. Hopefully I will be around here 30 years later, right? And so these properties that I bought now will be worth so much more later on, and that's without me having to do any extra work, because I already own them. And just think about from when your parents bought a house like 30 years ago, how much homes were. How much more do you think properties are going to be worth 30 years later, right? And then the next thing, which is really is important to me, is creating generational wealth, right? And so this is something that is talked about a lot. I mean, I have small children. I want them to start off with something, right? Have some tool that they can utilize that will make life easier for them starting off. So,
okay,
those are 3 practical reasons.
Do you got any 3? You have 3 impractical?
When you say impractical, like reasons
like
why you shouldn't,
theoretical, like, so let's say theoretical, right? So those are things that you can kind of touch and put your finger on. Like,
I will tell you this.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. Mm-hmm. So real estate is not a get rich quick scheme. So if you're under the impression that I am poor this year and I'm going to buy real estate and next year I'm going to be filthy rich, that's generally not how it works, right? You talked about mindset. If you think this is going to be easy, you are mistaken. This is not an easy business. It's worthwhile doing. It's extremely worthwhile doing, but it's not easy. So you have to create a tough mindset, right? Because you're not going to always want to do what you have to do. I think those to me is probably some of the ideas about real estate that people are going to have to get over, and that it takes a little while longer to get going than most people probably think, right? And that's no matter how many courses, books. And you have to take action. Like, you can't learn yourself out of mistakes. right? You don't think, oh, I'm going to take this course and I'm going to take that person's course and then I'm going to read this book and then I'm not going to make any mistakes. Again, that goes back to a poverty mindset. That's the fear, right? You need to just embrace the idea of failure. You're going to fail, right? But some of the best things that have happened to me have come out of failures. And so just embrace them.
Okay. So I see a question on the IG Live that I think is relevant, and it's, can you speak to the difference between generational wealth and transformational wealth?
Oh, I would say that generational wealth, to me, this is honestly, that's the first time I've heard the phrase about transformational wealth, because that to me sort of implies that you may already had some wealth and that and now you've
Okay.
built more wealth and it's transforming you from something that you were. But when it comes to generational wealth, to me, what that means is that you have assets, you have net worth, you have resources that can put your family into a much better position moving forward. Where this not the idea is not this week to week scramble. You can get beyond the struggle phase and you can get into the prosperity phase, right? So that's what I see my role as, is to set not just my children, but my children's children and other family members up so that they don't have to worry about next week or even next year. They're worrying about what's coming up the next 5, 10 years for the next generation after that. And that takes a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of effort. But again, it's a long term game plan.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective on that. I thought, like, once I've read the question off, I'm like, they're actually kind of interchangeable or intertwined. Like, they're very closely related.
Yeah,
Wealth and transformational, it's kind of the
yeah.
same thing. You'll probably get both when you do either or. So,
Yeah, I would be curious for the person who wrote the question if they have a little explanation about what transformational wealth mean, what it means to them, because obviously they see it differently.
okay.
They see them as different things.
All right, so next I would like to get some, I want to kind of get some definitions from you. I want to hear your perspective on different types of investments, right? And the different types, just so you have an overview, I'm gonna go through them really quickly. We're going to talk about passive, active,
Mhm.
landlording, wholesaling, and flipping. And I understand there are much more and different ways you can go about real estate, but generally these are the ones that come up. So, from your perspective, number one, I would like to hear from you. What is your definition of passive investing again?
Yeah, passive investing broadly is when you make a residual income off of real estate, right? So you're renting the property out in some shape or form.
Okay. How about active real estate investing? Your perspective on that?
Yeah. So that to me is any part of real estate that you get paid per transaction, meaning that you don't get paid until you sell the property, and then that's it, and then it stops, right? So there is no residual money coming after that. Once you sell it, it's done. So that's wholesaling and flipping properties.
Okay. So we have, and I would like, these are more defined, or these kind of fall under either passive or active. So the next one I would like to, like, what's your definition of landlording? Is that passive and active? Is it a combination of each? Your definition.
Um, it's I would say when it's done right, it's passive. But there's always some activity. Now, rather it's your activity is a different question. It could be a property manager. I have a property manager on my staff, so I don't have tenants calling me, but ultimately I still have to talk to my staff about what's going on in my units, right? But the idea is that you run the business and that your properties are in pretty decent shape, so that you have less problems, so that there's less reason to actually engage with the tenants.
All right, and we mentioned wholesaling a little bit earlier. Your definition of wholesaling, and is it active or passive?
Yeah. So I mean, so wholesaling is the act of putting a property under contract and then selling that contract to the end buyer. So generally, it's the wholesaler putting it under contract with the seller, and then the wholesaler selling the contract, not the property, selling the contract to the investor. I bought a lot of properties through that process. That's an extremely active part of the business, because you have to be marketing, you have to talk to sellers, you have to talk to investors, title company. So I would say that's probably one of the most active parts of the business.
Okay, and so I know a lot about wholesaling, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
hear your. So next, what's coming up is flipping. Do you think
Mm-hmm.
flipping is more active, or what's your perspective on that? Is it passive? Is it active? And
So,
zone in on, is it more active than wholesaling?
is it more active in wholesaling? That's a good question.
Yeah.
It depends on how you have it structured. If you're a one man or one woman band, it could potentially be more active, because not only do you have to get in the contract and you still have to find the capital, you still have to go through the title company, you still have to go through those things. Now you have to rehab that property. So now you have to deal with the city, you have to deal with contractors. Um, so it depends on, and then it depends on if on how hands-on are you. Are you physically working on the property, or are you managing the project, or do you have a general contractor? So it depends on how involved you are in the process. I would say that probably a wholesaler is probably busier, just because they're managing so many more leads and deals at the same time. Whereas your average flipper is, they're doing 1 to 2 deals maybe at the same time. So I would imagine that the wholesaler is more busy, and ultimately it comes down to the structure of your business, right? Because the more structure that you have your business, the less work that you have to do,
Okay,
right?
and
As you bring on team members.
all right, and we talked about the flipping, but let's get your definition on flipping, like succinct
Yeah, sure.
definitions.
So flipping is when you buy a distressed property, that is undervalued, that is sold under its value, and you rehab the property, thereby forcing appreciation, and then you resell the property to a retail tenant.
Okay, awesome. Next we're getting close to the end. We've been here a while. So next question I have for you is, I got two more questions, and people always want to know, how do you get deals? So I want to hear your perspective, and I know you've gotten deals. You've done deals offline, you've done deals online, you've gotten deals from also networking. So share your
Yeah.
perspective on how you get offline deals first.
Mhm. So this goes to both. So number one, like I said, you want to be networking, but the biggest thing is that you want people to know that you're buying real estate, right? That they should know when they hear your name. Oh, this person buys real estate, right? That's going to attract people to reach out. Like, I don't care if you are a nurse, if you want to get into real estate, especially in any meaningful way, you want to let people ask what it is that you do. You buy real estate. That way, again, you are top of mind. You want to make as many connections with active wholesalers that actually have deals as possible, and with real estate agents that understand what investors want. And that's not every agent, but the agents that really understand that game are great.
Okay. So the next question, you kind of addressed all three there, to be honest. So we don't need to go into detail there. The next question I have for you is one of your signatures, right? Cash flow versus cash out. What does it mean when you say cash flow? And then what does it mean when you say cash out? And can you talk about benefits of each?
Yeah, you have echo now for some reason, but so yeah, cash flow versus cash out. So this is a conversation that I had some years ago. And the premise is, as you grow your business, you have something that's called equity. Equity is the difference between what you owe on the property as far as loans and the value of that property, right? So really simple, you may own a property where you have a mortgage on it that's $100,000 and the property is worth $150,000. You have $50,000 of equity. So the question is, okay, do you leave that equity into the building and the property cash flows more, with the idea that you have this lower mortgage, or do you tap into that equity by doing a refi cash out, right? That will give you capital so you can buy more, so that you can buy more real estate, but it will lower your cash flow. And so I just have that conversation with investors just to get them thinking, because again, real estate is a numbers business, and so you need to understand why do you believe what you believe. Now there are investors who are either side of this opinion, right? Or rather, you should leave equity into deals and cash flow better, or if you should take the equity out and grow your business. So that's what the overall concept is really about: getting investors to think about which strategy makes the most sense.
Okay. And I have we work together, so I dropped a link to your cash flow versus cash out presentation inside the comments for people that's interested in that in more detail. The next question that I have for you is, where can we learn more about you online?
Absolutely. So you can go to dantherealestateman.biz. That's dantherealestateman.biz. Again, on Instagram, you can follow me at Dan the Real Estate Man 1. And on Facebook, it's Dan the Real Estate Man. And I'm always posting videos and what I'm doing, and walkthrough Wednesdays and money tips and all sorts of things, because the reason why I started doing it is that I still remember what it's like to be a newbie and have so many questions and not understand how things work, which is one of the reasons why I love social media, is because when I started, it was not as active as it is now. It was not, as many people on here sharing information.
Okay, and I did it a little backwards, but I would like to hear your perspective. If you could recommend three books to the audience, what would those three books be and why?
Good question. So the one that mostly everybody says is Think and Grow Rich. It's a great book, right? It's a great book because it challenges a lot of the ideas that you have about money, especially if you come from lower or middle income households. A lot of what we're taught is taught so that we can exist and not really prosper, right? So it's like so you won't starve, right? But there's almost no prosperity conversations in there, and it really goes deeply into, thinking differently about how you deal with money, right? So that was extremely eye-opening. Another book is Think and Grow Rich, which is, it's a good business book, right? It's just interviewing. And there's Think and Grow Rich, and then there's Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, which has Dennis Kimbrough in it. Both great books where they interview people who have done really well and just ask them about their habits and things that they've learned. A really good real estate book, and this may be high level, but it's and I always forget the name of it, but it's the value play, something like the multifamily value play book. When I tell you, like, this book is very similar to taking a college course. It is extremely detailed. It shows you like shots of closing costs, and just really walks you through the understanding how to underwrite a commercial property, right? So if you're interested in that sort of thing. And there's another one too. I know you said 3, but Flipping for Dummies was a great book. Like, literally, I read that book and I flipped the house. It was that much information in there. I read that book and flipped it, and it was good.
Nice. So we are towards the end, but before we go, I would like for you to leave us with this is real estate, so I call it the closing table. Do you have any final closing statements?
Sure. I mean, listen, man, real estate is a great opportunity. I think more than focusing on how much money that you're going to make, you need to focus on yourself, focus on your mindset, focus on bringing value to people around you. If you figure out a way to bring value to people, doors will open for you. I mean, it's amazing, right? So, don't ask to pick a person's brain. Ask them, hey, what can I do to help you out? How can I, and separate yourself from the crowd of people who just want to take, and be somebody who wants to add value. You will stand out amongst a crowd of takers. And get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? You're gonna have to get rid of that sort of that job mindset, like guaranteed. Well, how can I got this guaranteed pay? Like, it is still investing. So there's risk, and you have to learn how to deal with that and keep moving forward.
Thank you, Dan. This was excellent. I really appreciate you for doing this, and we'll get everything loaded up in the show notes, etc., etc. We went live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're like all over the place, so I'll make sure you get everything. We'll also get it up on our official podcast platform. Again, thank you so much for doing this. Of course, we're going to have you back and talk about some more stuff and go into more detail. But again, thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate you.
All right, cool, man. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for having me, and I'll talk with you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.